Happy Friday, everyone! I've got Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey with me today, and that means it's time for my next episode of Toy Box Tutorials. Last time, I finished the pinball game in my Game Grid toy box here, but before I move on to the next game, which is going to be over here, I want to talk to you about physics balls. I talked briefly about them back in my Sports Toys overview in episode 74, but I did not cover them in detail, so I need to do that now before we can move on. And I think the best way to do this tutorial is to take you over to my San Francisco toy box and show you one of the sports prototypes that I worked on for my recent Disney Infinity Sports series. So let's head over there now. Okay, here we are in my little San Francisco toy box. It's basically a small arena for a possible sports game that I was experimenting with. I'm not going to show you how to build a full game out of this. I think you can do that for yourself if you want, but I will show you the basic gameplay mechanic that I was attempting to design this game around. Now, you already know how to get physics balls moving. You can push them, shoot them, you can do a ground pound on them to get them going. You can also ride on top of them, like I demonstrated with the hockey puck when I built a ski jump in episode 5 of my Frozen Festival series. But what you may not know is that the physics balls have a logic menu. And let me go grab a physics ball here. We're just going to drop this down. And if we select this, which it's not letting me do, that's really interesting. I have never seen that happen before. Let's get out of that and go back in. There we go. That's weird. But as you'll notice, there's a logic menu here. And if you open that up, you can do a new actor connection, so you can connect this toy as an actor for a target camera, for example, and have the target camera follow the ball around. You can also connect this to a path. Now you'll notice there are no properties here, there's no trigger signals, there's no new logic connection or anything like that. And if I drop down a button, I want to show you also that there are no behaviors for this toy besides path connections. So if we go to the button, we do a new logic connection. When pressed, you'll notice it will not let me select that. So there's no behaviors associated with that toy. But let's go ahead and put down a path. And we'll connect this up to a path, because this is really interesting what you can do with this when it's connected to a path. This is something I had not really known or experimented with much. Of course, that didn't put me in point mode. This is going to be one of those episodes where things don't always work properly. So this should be really interesting. Alright, we'll do that. And let's move this over just a little bit. I think that's fine, but we'll do that. Alright, so the default properties on the path, I'm going to leave everything set the way it is. So auto start is on. Alright, so let's come to our physics ball. We'll do a new path connection. Connect that up to our toy box path. And you'll notice it starts moving. It moves to the path, and then it starts looping, because that's the default behavior, so we need to change that. So you can set the movement style on this to back and forth, for example. It'll roll a little bit past the end of it, and then change direction. So that's kind of interesting. You can also have it do a one-way and stop. And I'll set that here. So it'll actually roll past the end of the thing and stop. So it doesn't keep going once it leaves the path. Moving along the path keeps it rolling. Once it goes past the end of the path, it actually does stop. So you can't use the path to like launch the ball, which is something I had hoped and was experimenting on doing. We'll put it back to back and forth. And now you might be thinking, well, what happens if you try to interact with this thing while it's going? Well, you can push it, and you'll notice it comes right back to the path. And this might be a little easier to demonstrate if I use Stitch's blaster to shoot it. So I'm going to put that down on my base. And now you can kind of see we push it out that way, and it comes back. So it's kind of like it's tied to a bungee cord. And when you shoot it, it works a little bit like a yo-yo. So it goes away and then it comes back. So that makes for some interesting possibilities for gameplay. And one of the things I was experimenting with my sports toys in here, trying to see if I could make a fun game out of it. But I was using the soccer ball and some goalposts. And I was kind of experimenting with how you could do this, set up the goals, and have two players trying to shoot the ball into the other opponent's goal. And you'd want to set the properties on this to not kick out, just do a none, because the path is going to automatically try to pull this thing out anyway. And I was trying to offset these a little bit. So this one we would do none for the scored object action. Then you'd have one player defending their goal, another player trying to shoot the ball in and get a point. Of course, it's going to return to the path and keep going. And then down on this end, the other player is probably going to be trying to get it in your goal. So you're going to be in defensive mode on this end. So you're kind of playing kitty corner from each other. If you do it straight across, what I discovered was that wasn't really effective because you're standing in front of your goal and you're trying to shoot into the other guy's goal and the ball doesn't get there. So by offsetting it, makes it a little bit more interesting. So I was experimenting with it. It just didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. It was kind of interesting, but if you wanted to develop this further, you could hook the soccer goals up to a scoreboard and put a challenge maker in here and see what you can do with it. But I think that's everything I wanted to cover for the physics balls. You can do some interesting things with them by attaching them to paths, as you can see. But the main thing I want to point out is that there are no properties or behaviors for these toys. And that's going to be important next time when we return to my Game Grid toy box and begin looking at our next pinball game variant. Until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my video today, or at least perhaps learned something new. If so, leave a comment and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you go if you haven't done that already. Take care.